So we're back at it again today. We got a starter that we needed to change in this 2006 Honda CR-V with a 2.4 liter. It is all-wheel drive, and well, they want you to take the intake manifold off from the top. You can see the intake manifold there, and well, book time's 2.4 hours. Change that, plus you're into intake gaskets and possibly bleed the cooling system. Just wanted to show you, this is the starter here, sits in the vehicle like so, passenger side, driver's side, and you've got two bolts in the front that you can actually see is a 17 millimeter longer bolt. In the back it's a 14 millimeter, but it's sort of an extension bolt that goes in the back. It's blind, you won't be able to see it if you change it from underneath. I decided that I was going to try to change it from underneath, and it actually worked out quite well. It's a good cheat. Got the starter changed and put back in just over an hour. So what you're gonna have to do is, here's some of the tools that you're gonna need. 10 millimeter wrench, 8 millimeter wrench, 17 millimeter, 14 millimeter sockets. I use this to undo some of the clips for the connectors. There's an oil pressure switch, I believe, and also a couple other connectors that need to come undone. But basically all I did was put a trans jack underneath of the engine, undid that front motor mount bolt, took it right out, lifted the engine up slightly, undid, but I did not take out these. By the way, I forgot to mention, if you do not have somewhat small hands, you will not be able to do this job. You have to stick your hand up in between the starter and I believe it's the thermostat housing there, to be able to reach around the back of the starter and sort of grab a hold of the bolt and get the bolt out that way. If you can't do that, you're pretty well screwed. You're gonna have to go from the top and do it by the book. So just keep that in mind. Front subframe bolts. So I left those in, but I did loosen them off just so the subframe could come down enough so I could get my arms in here. And yeah, there's an intermediate connector, that gray one right there. Undid that. There's also a harness that gets attached onto the side of the starter. Undid that. And then in the back, there's an oil pressure switch. So I undid that as well. There we go, focusing on that. Like I say, that 17 millimeter bolt up there, easy to get out, no problem. The signal wire for the starter, there's no clip for it, it just slides on. That's it up there. So you just grab a hold of it and pull it off. And then the tricky thing is getting that back bolt out. You can put I found using a semi-deep would probably work best, but a deep 14 millimeter socket on a shorter ratchet. And I was able to actually I'd put them together and then sort of sneak in behind the starter and get it onto that extended bolt and break that free. And once it was broken free, then I could actually get my hand in there and just take it out by hand. I left the socket on it just so I could turn the socket, because it is sort of deeper in behind the starter. It's not really flush with the end. So yeah, once you get that out, you can pull your starter down, and I sort of flipped it on its back so that I could gain access to the main power terminal, which I just undid the nut here and pulled the harness off. And then what I had to do was fish the starter around to the other side over here where there was more room, and pull the starter out over here. And then of course fish it all back in, hook it up, get it in there. And yeah, I'm just gonna start putting that bolt back together. Like I say, I'm just over an hour to get to this point, so I just have to stick some bolts in there and do up all the connections, and should be good to go. So thought I'd just show you this little trick. Thanks for watching. If you got any comments, throw them down below, Give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.